You're listening to Something Cheeky, a collection of podcasts where two sisters discuss TV, books, and movies with just enough irreverence and far too many pop culture references.
Welcome to Something Cheeky, where we're discussing the movie Kingsman, The Golden Circle. I'm Nikki.
I'm Rosanna.
Before we get started, I apologize for my voice. I have been sick this week, and at least I have a voice now. I'd completely lost it earlier, but I'm going to sound a little weird this episode.
A little.
If there's any need for Batman impersonations, I'm your girl.
There's always a need for Batman impersonation.
I'm Batman.
Very good.
Thank you. Let's get going. All right. In this movie, Julianne Moore is the 50s housewife from hell, and Eggsy turns out to be way more wholesome than we ever imagined. This is part 2 of our coverage of the Matthew Vaughn-directed movie Kingsman, The Golden Circle, starring Taron Egerton, not Egerton as we've been pronouncing.
Oh, whoopsie.
If you haven't listened to part 1 yet, go listen to hear Rosanna's predictions. In that episode, Rosanna heard the movie synopsis and watched the trailer, made predictions and all that good stuff. Now that we've both seen the movie, we're going to discuss the highs and lows and how fun this film turned out to be. And also a few issues it had. All right, Rosanna, now that you've seen Kingsman, The Golden Circle, what was your initial reaction? Did you like it?
So there have been some unfavorable reviews for this movie that I've heard.
Yeah.
And while I can sort of see what people were saying, I really liked this movie. I thought it was a ton of fun. And I think that probably if you really tried, you could totally tear it apart and just break everything down and point out all the flaws. That's not really why I go to the movies.
Yeah.
You know, it had these characters that I loved from the first movie, and I don't think you ever should expect the second movie to be as good as the first one. But I sat in the theater for 2.5 hours, and I had a great time watching it.
Yeah, same here. Well, let's talk about it. We're going to hit a few of the big points here. So, a year has gone by since the first movie ended, and Harry Hart died, and the Galahad title has passed to Eggsy. And I apologize, Taron Egerton, for saying your name wrong all this time. I blame his name in the movie being Eggsy for me saying Egerton.
Sure.
And not Edgerton. It didn't occur to me till I heard someone mention it somewhere, and I was like, oh, wait, that's completely different pronunciation.
And I think he's probably really going to appreciate that apology, because I know that he's an avid fan of our show. Shout out to you, Eggsy.
It turns out the woman that he had sex with at the end of the first movie, Princess Tilda, which is a punctuation mark, is now his girlfriend, which was not something I expected.
Oh, not at all. I was very surprised to see her again.
Eggsy very quickly runs into Charlie from the first movie, who was one of the other recruits that made it second to the last test, where they tested their loyalty on the railroad tracks, and he broke immediately.
Yeah.
And did that rich boy thing of, my dad's gonna hear about this and all that stuff. Of course, we hated him the whole movie because he was so mean to Eggsy. It turns out that when we thought he died in the last movie, because he was supposed to be one of the people whose microchip blew his head up, like all the other rich people, apparently Eggsy, when he shocked him with the ring, shorted out the chip. And so he lost an arm and his vocal cords got messed up, but he lived just long enough to become a recruit somehow of apparently the drug cartel leader of all drug cartels. She has a monopoly on the entire drug business, but in the whole world, it sounds like. Charlie's cybernetic arm manages to hack the computer in the car as he and Eggsy fight, and that car chase scene I thought was really fun. I love the action in these movies. I think it's so well done.
I totally agree.
It was exciting to get action right off the bat like this. It was really fun.
Their fight scenes are so great because they're exciting, but they also slow down certain parts so you can really see what's happening instead of it just being a blur.
Mm-hmm.
I really, really enjoy their fight scenes. They're so well choreographed.
We get Roxy back from the first movie for, a total of 1 scene we get her?
Yeah.
Which is really unfortunate.
Actually, I think it was 2 scenes because they did show her when she was giving him all of the information at the dinner.
That was fun to see, too, because at first, they totally had me fooled.
Me too.
When he was at dinner with Princess Tilda's parents. I thought had suddenly just learned about a million different subjects and was the ultimate gentleman spy.
Yeah.
That is such a trope of knowing information about every possible thing you could ever want to know. But he was getting fed all that information from Roxy, and it was great as she was Googling things and looking things up for him. But he handled it very well.
Yeah, he really did.
We had seen a few of his friends before that, just some birthday party he'd gone to for a friend. And one of them is dog sitting for JB, the pug from the first movie, who is very cute.
So cute.
And is not a bulldog.
No, a pug.
I usually don't like pugs, but he was pretty fun.
He's adorable.
And he manages to get into a not very well secured, hidden kind of cache of weapons that Eggsy has, and he finds his glasses that show what's going on in different places.
Yeah, I definitely had a problem with this scene because there's no way Eggsy would have him dog sit if he didn't have that room locked.
Yeah, it was way too easy to open up the wall of weapons and all that. And were his glasses just sitting there?
Yeah, that didn't make sense. That is out of character for someone who belongs to the Kingsmen.
Though he is still very new.
Even so, he knows the guy's going to be in his house alone. And it's not like it is a bedroom. It's not even a bedroom. It's just an office.
Yeah. We get a very funny little part where the guy is messing with the lighter. And we remember from the first movie that the lighter is actually, an incendiary device of some sort?
It's a grenade, isn't it?
I think, oh yeah, that's right. And he's messing with it, and Eggsy can see him through the glasses. And the guy won't close it. He's going to get blown up. And he finally closes it just before it goes. We feel so much better. And then a missile hits the house. And a missile hits everything. It hits his house. It hits the homes of, I guess, all the different agents that we never did meet. We see them slowly flickering out, very quickly flickering out when Arthur sees them all. Was I right? Was that guy Dumbledore?
Yes.
Okay. I mixed it up in the first episode, and I would have been a spoiler if you had realized I had mixed it up.
I had no idea what you were talking about.
We were talking about Michael Caine.
I was like, this is not like Nikki to think that Michael Caine played Dumbledore.
I'm good with faces, and as soon as I realized, I'm like, oh crap, I hope she doesn't notice. Because they look very different.
Yes, they
do. And they
do.
sound very different. But so we lose all the agents. We lose the entire gorgeous manor that they all used. It just falls into the ground, which is very sad. Eggsy meets up with Merlin, and I love Merlin, Mark Strong. I'm glad he got such a big part in this film.
Me too.
His part was much smaller in the last one.
Yeah.
Though, I doubt we'll see him again. We got to get Colin Firth back, but I'm pretty sure you don't come back from a landmine.
Yeah, I don't think that's possible.
And they gave him a very dignified ending. Also, a funny ending, because he got to sing his John Denver song.
I really didn't want him to die, but I think that if he was going to, that was true to his character.
Yeah, saving the other guys.
And also doing it while he's singing John Denver and while he's taking other people out. And, I mean, it's...
Yeah.
His whole job in the Kingsmen is support, and that's exactly what he was doing. But he was doing it his way.
To the end. I'll miss his jokes, though. It was so funny when the difference between when he was telling Eggsy that he needed to wait to shed a tear in private after they had done all this. Right. But when he and Eggsy were drinking, he was sobbing at one point. It was so sweet.
It was adorable.
Okay, let's go back to Eggsy and Princess Tilda for a second. Some of the criticisms have been that basically all the women, with the exception of Roxy, who was killed very quickly in this movie, were just not greatly written, not very well written. Mm-hmm. They had weird actions or motivations that seemed odd. And I do agree with that to an extent. Princess Tilda was a very superficial character. Not that she was superficial, but she was written superficially.
Right.
She was pretty one-dimensional, which wasn't great. But it's hard to come back from a character whose only action in the other movie was saying she'd let a guy have anal sex with her if he saved the world.
Right.
Which is also pretty sad of a characterization in the first place.
Yeah, I'm not sure what else they could have done with her, really, to bring her, up to a super high level when that's where she started.
Yeah.
I will agree, though, that she didn't have a lot of depth.
I wish they'd just given us a new person for a love interest.
That would have been fine, too, yeah.
And we got some of the funny stuff of fancy parents and all that, but we could have had that without being a king.
Sure.
Though he married her at the end of the movie, and so now he's a prince.
Right.
Which is, as he said, going to create some problems with being a super spy and a public figure.
It's not going to work. I mean...
Yeah, I don't know how, if there's a third movie, I don't know how the heck they're going to pull that off.
He can't do both. I mean, he can't. So, I don't know.
I imagine they'd kill off Princess Tilda pretty quickly then, if there's a third movie.
Oh, poor Eggsy. He already lost JB and now you're killing his wife?
I know.
It's harsh.
There was the part when Eggsy was seducing whatever her name was, which is sad that I don't remember her name.
What was her name?
I want to say Claire, but I don't think that's right. Clara? I want to think Clara. There was a scene before he seduced her when he called Princess Tilda, which I thought was kind of cute, that he actually called her to make sure she was okay with it. But dating a super spy, you'd think that that situation would have come up already at some point. Apparently this is the first time it ever had.
Sure.
But second, she's got to expect that is going to happen sometimes, and seemed surprised that that was the case. Honestly, I was surprised that he even called her about it at all.
I was surprised too. I think they were trying to show us how committed or serious he is with this relationship.
One of the many reasons I thought he was more wholesome than originally expected.
There were several times in this movie I went like this. Aww.
I did not like that her response to that was marriage pressure. As we've said, there were some issues with women in this movie. But I'm going to be honest, I watched this movie because the action is fun and I like the main characters. I wasn't a big fan of really any of the Americans, but I loved Taron Egerton, Mark Strong, and Colin Firth in this,
too.
Just like I did in the last one.
Well, and I like, obviously, women in movies, but the women in this movie were not the reason I went to see the movie.
Yeah. Well, Eggsy and Merlin have to go with the Doomsday Protocol, which they don't really know what it is. They just know they have to open this vault where they find a bottle of whiskey, which they proceed to drink the entire bottle. There's like one shot left before Eggsy notices.
I don't know how they could even read at that point.
Distilled in Kentucky. I know. That was a lot of whiskey. And there were just 2 of them. So they hop right on a plane, go straight to Kentucky. And I like that they made it so realistic with the, like, here's a big fancy place and it's just tours for people at the distillery. And then they, on their tour, not hidden very well, get right into the building. You'd think that an entrance like that would have maybe a couple of doors before you get to the, what kind of lock is that?
Biometric or something?
Yeah, you wouldn't think that'd be on the outside where tourists walking by would see somebody using a biometric lock.
Mm-hmm.
And so we meet Channing Tatum, who is Tequila, which is an appropriate name for him because he's a bit out of control. I think Channing Tatum was severely underused in this movie. He is such a great comedic actor, and he was sidelined for 75% of the movie. We didn't even see him. And what we did see in the beginning, yeah, he wasn't very likable. It was kind of fun in the very first scene where they fought and he was swinging his gun around. I'm sure that was fun to learn. But then after that, he was just kind of annoying. I think the only time I really liked Channing Tatum in this movie was when they just showed one scene of him.
Yeah.
When he was in the second stage of the illness and he was just dancing in the little like onesie outfit.
But did he have
that
his
was
boots
pretty
on
good
too, though?
Oh, maybe. Yeah. And as we know, Channing Tatum can dance. But it was funny to see him do such a cheesy little dance number.
Yeah, I thought that too.
The second trailer showed him in it a lot more. And there was one scene that was in the trailer that I didn't see in the movie. It was just a quick like walk by. I think maybe he was showing him fancy stuff, and it was pretty funny. But I thought he was going to be in this movie a lot more than he was. And I was really disappointed when he wasn't. I was very disappointed when they put him on ice, and then he was just gone. Forever. Until he woke up at the very end. I hope that there are a lot of deleted scenes with him in them that they just cut and originally planned to have a minute more. We'll see.
And for whatever reason, they just couldn't fit
in
them in.
2.5-hour movie. Like how it was a long movie. Let's talk about the Statesmen names, because we know the Kingsmen names are all the Knights of the Round Table, and Arthur was their leader, King Arthur, and Merlin was the support side guy, just like Merlin the wizard from the historic tale of King Arthur. So Statesmen are all named after alcohol. It is weird to me that champagne is the main guy and not whiskey, because they are a whiskey distillery. You'd think that'd be like the main name.
I guess they just decided champagne's expensive, so he's the best. I also found it a little irritating that the one woman, her name wasn't even an alcohol.
I was annoyed at first, and then I realized that it's the same thing as with Merlin. Merlin was the support for King Arthur. Ginger ale is a mixer for alcohol. So I think they're pretty equivalent. But, yes, a soda seemed kind of demeaning.
I can see why she never got any farther than she did, if that was the code name they gave her.
Though, I'm glad that it sounds like she'll be the new whiskey, so she gets, like, the most manly name of all of them, which is awesome. Even though she was pretty boring. I don't know if it's just Halle Berry's acting or the writing for that character, but she was not very interesting.
Well, I discovered this after you and I had a brief discussion about it earlier this week. I don't really like Halle Berry, I guess. For some reason, I thought that I liked her fine, but then when I started going through her list of movies, I was like, nah. So, in this movie, I think she just was overacting. It felt forced and uncomfortable when she had scenes.
It also felt like she was pretending to be 25. She seemed very young acting, even though she's not.
To me, she acted in this movie the same way she acted when she played Storm in X-Men. Just kind of over the top. It seemed like she was just taking herself very seriously.
I wonder if the part was written imagining a younger actress in mind, and then they cast her. Is it just me, or it seemed like her lines seemed very... It's something that would come from a younger, inexperienced person rather than a mature woman.
Maybe they did, plan on somebody else playing her, because I can even imagine somebody who's not 25 playing that, but playing it better than Halle Berry did. Her scenes sort of took me out of the movie because I just don't think she did a very good job.
Who do you think would have been good in that part?
Maybe more of a comedic actress?
Not Jennifer Lawrence. I know she's in, like, everything nowadays.
She would be too comedic, I think. I like Emma Stone. I think she does a good job.
Oh, she would have been really fun in that part.
Yeah, I think so. I'd be interested if any of our listeners had suggestions, if they agree with us that Halle Berry wasn't good for that part, but who they thought would have done better.
Before we meet all of these statesmen, we do get one fun scene with Channing Tatum where he's got Merlin and Eggsy tied up, and he's messing with them because he doesn't believe that they're from this secret spy organization in England. And that was kind of fun. Until we get the big spoiler by the trailer of Colin Firth's character, the original Galahad, is back, and he has amnesia, and he is totally obsessed with butterflies, which is very sweet, and I love that he had wanted to be, I want to say like ornithologist or something. It was a really long word. That he wanted to be that when he was young, and he joined the army instead. But he's got drawings all over this. He literally lives in a padded cell. He doesn't seem to think it's weird that he's locked in a padded cell. I feel like anyone would think that was weird.
It was almost like they made his amnesia make him childish.
Yes.
I'm not sure if that would have been the case, really. I don't know anybody who's ever had amnesia, but I'm going to guess that it doesn't revert you to a younger
Reverted him to
age.
When he had wanted to have that job instead. He still would have been an adult, not a 10-year-old.
But he was totally adorable.
Yes, he's very, very, just so sweet. You just want to, like, pat him on the head or something. And then the scene with the dog, oh my God, when he got him to wake up and remember everything.
How great was the CGI in making him look younger?
Yes, that was really
I thought
good.
that was really good.
Yeah.
So here's the thing about the scenes with him in the cell with all the butterfly drawings that sort of left me wanting. I kept expecting for Eggsy or Merlin to look closer at the drawings and for them to see the references from Kingsman somehow.
Same here. I thought that they were going to, like, the terms were going to be things from his spy life or something. Or like drawings hidden inside their wings.
Yes, like, you know, it looks like a butterfly, but when you get closer, it's actually a device.
Yeah, I thought that exact same thing. I'm sad they didn't do that.
I feel like that's really a missed opportunity.
So, Champagne, Jeff Bridges. I'm not sure I really like Jeff Bridges. I don't dislike him. I'm just not excited about movies that he's in.
Mm-hmm.
What was up with the... I know you noticed it too. He kept putting his finger in the whiskey and rubbing it under his nose. What was that about?
I don't know.
Is that a thing? I have no idea.
I don't understand it at all. Also, nobody else is going to want to drink that if you keep sticking your face finger in it.
Your
What
face
the
finger?
heck? Yeah, you know, the finger that's been on your face finger.
I think you might need some anatomy lessons, Rosanna. Let's talk about Julianne Moore as Poppy Adams. She is...
insane.
Yeah. There was somebody on one of the newscasts they showed that talked about her being a sociopath and very intelligent but psychotic. I kept expecting some explanation as to why she was obsessed with the 50s. Like some trauma from her childhood or something. I don't know. Also, all that stuff with the 50s nostalgia mixed with all the robotic stuff that's modern, but also a little throw-in of the Elton John fan obsession. I mean, her dogs were named Bennie and
Right.
Jets. So Bennie and the Jets, the song, and...
Yeah, she wasn't really stable, so I don't know that we could expect any of it to make sense to a sane person.
And the tattoo thing. That didn't seem connected with anything at all. There was no other circle imagery that I noticed. No other golden imagery I noticed anywhere. Tattoos are definitely not like a 50s thing. I couldn't seem to find any connection between the golden circle idea and anything else that she seemed interested in.
Yeah, I didn't really think about that, but that's a weird name to pick. It doesn't have any connections to anything.
These big themes that just never meshed. It was very strange. Also, I'm bothered that she made the guy eat the other guy in the hamburger.
I thought that maybe while he was getting his makeover, she made an actual ground beef burger and then gave it to him as a test to see if he would eat it.
Uh-huh.
But the more the movie went on, the more I realized that she actually made him eat the other guy.
Yeah,
It was super gross.
Also weird. That's not really how meat grinders work.
They spit out the shoes and clothes.
Yeah. You don't put an entire body, including clothes and bones and everything, into a meat grinder. You just put the meat.
Though, she was all robotic-y. Maybe she created one specifically for that purpose. Maybe she just really ground up a lot of people. It was like a regular thing.
Either way, gross.
Definitely gross.
So she has laced, I guess, every single drug that she has put out with this special formula that causes mania and paralysis, and eventually it kills people in a very gruesome way.
Yeah.
It's pretty terrible. It's pretty obvious if you've taken it because the veins in your neck start to go blue, I guess in your whole body, which is how we know that Tequila took it, and the Tequila likes to party.
Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Tequila!
So Poppy has distributed all the drugs, and once everything's out and people are starting to get it, she takes over the news stations everywhere in the world and announces what she's done. And she wants the President of the United States to stop the war on drugs and give her immunity. She will release an antidote to everybody, which she's already conveniently hidden in big cities across the world.
Also, how do you take over every channel?
That is an excellent question. I always wonder about that in these movies.
I mean, is that even possible?
I don't think so.
Because in a lot of movies, they seem to think that's possible.
And not just for the country, but for the entire world.
This is not the only movie that's been the case.
No, that is a trope.
You know what? I can even think of a movie that happened. One of the recent Superman movies, the bad guy alien came down and took over every, TV, phone, computer, everything.
Oh.
And sent out his message.
And that just rises to the level of supernatural.
I guess maybe if you have alien technology, it could do anything because it's not real, so we can't say it's not possible.
I can't remember who said it, but I think it was a fantasy writer, said something like, if you're going to have a story with dragons, you better get the horses right. What he means is, if you're going to have a story with supernatural stuff, with things that people, don't know how they would be in real life, you better get the stuff that is real correct.
Mm.
So it's not distracting because people know what a horse is. If you mess that up, it's going to be very difficult to believe the things that you invented for your story.
Okay. That makes sense.
Okay, so this whole drug thing. She wants the president to give her immunity, and she'll release this and stop the war on drugs. Basically make it legal, which is a very real-world politicized issue about the war on drugs and its ineffectiveness. Just like the last movie had climate change as its big plot point. And the president outwardly agrees to do this, but to the people in his cabinet, he says that he is just going to let all the junkies die. And I don't know if she's chief of staff or what. I don't think they ever say exactly who she is.
I don't think so either.
But it turns out that she is also a drug user. She has a very good excuse. She's been working 20-hour days, 7 days a week for the president to get everything he wants done. And so she's also been using illegal drugs and starts to get the blue veins, and he does not care. I have to think this guy has to have some relative that he cares about that is affected, or he just doesn't care. He's like, sorry, niece Timmy, too bad. Or nephew Timmy.
No, you could be a niece and a Timmy, whatever. It's 2017.
That's true, all right. Yeah, it seems odd that nobody else that he cares about is affected, and he obviously doesn't even care about her.
Oh, not at all. And it probably makes her even more angry that she's resorted to taking drugs to do her job, and he doesn't even care if she dies.
Yeah, this guy is a major horrible person. It seemed weird that they talked about him being impeached because of lying to the American people. No one seemed to mention the fact that he had people put in cages.
Right.
In these big stadiums. And just, I guess didn't feed them or anything, just left them to die. They didn't show this, but I kept imagining people going to the bathroom at the top.
And also, were you thinking claw machine when they were putting people?
Oh my god.
I know. Well, and I also thought, this is horrible that he's separating them all and putting them in these cages. But then I also thought, it's probably good that they're not in the same cages as each other, because I feel like it would get violent. This was not the best way to do it, but I think it could have been worse.
All right, side question. Where did he have all those cages from? Why did he own thousands of cages that would fit people in them?
Millions of cages.
Yeah, that's true, millions.
It's like, all right, somebody go out to the cage storage unit and start bringing them out.
Also, there must have been hundreds of staff, working to make this happen, and none of it ever leaked to the press.
And every single person doing it was okay with it?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like maybe there were a couple of plot holes. Just here
I'll give you that. Something they really could have explored a little more.
Also, here's another thing. Why did they have to cage him up anyway? They were just going to die. Why didn't they just let him die?
You could fit more of them that way because you could stack them.
No, I mean, why didn't they just let them stay home?
That's also true.
I mean, I'm not sure what they thought was going to happen if they didn't cage them. Maybe they thought they were just going to, riot, but I don't think that's true. They only had, 12 hours? And halfway through that, they were paralyzed. What are a million paralyzed people going to do to you?
Maybe it was also for ease of disposing of the bodies afterward. Because if you have everybody spread out in houses, let's talk about Elton John. He was so much fun in this movie.
He really was funny.
Eventually, it got a little old.
I would agree with that.
Just yelling "fuck you" at everybody.
Yeah, I think out of all of his lines, maybe 70% of them were the word "fuck."
Yes. Also, I'm not sure quite. They must have been CGI, but I don't know how they did the flying kick near the end. That was amazing.
Super unrealistic, yeah.
Yes, and just the grin as he was doing it, it was so funny. But Poppy used him to show the antidote in the 4 stages, right, and didn't expect him to just be yelling "fuck you" out the window. And then he was ordering the little doctor guy out, and he was confused, like, am I supposed to listen to him or you? I don't know what to do. Get out of my room.
He's like, I know that Poppy's my boss, but, like, it's Elton John, so...
He's very insistent that I leave. Yeah, he was a lot of fun. So since Tequila is incapacitated, Whiskey, played by Pedro Pascal from Game of Thrones and Narcos, he goes with Eggsy to the Glastonbury Music Festival, where Charlie's ex-girlfriend, who apparently is still his actual girlfriend...
Did they say ex?
And I figured ex was correct, too, because Charlie kind of disappeared from his old life to be a henchman of Poppy. Also, he seemed to become, like, her main henchman. He was in on all the plans. He was her right-hand guy. What? Oh! Oh my god, why? I didn't even do that on purpose. My god. But yeah, it's weird. Here's my question for any listeners who are part of the criminal underworld. How do you find a new boss when, or if you're a free agent? How does that work? Do you have to apply? Is there some sort of...
I'm gonna need to see your resume.
Yeah, an interview.
Also, you'd think if he told her why he got kicked out of the Kingsmen, she wouldn't want him because she was big on loyalty.
Yes. Also, how do you go from almost being a Kingsman to deciding you want to be a criminal? I mean, he lived, so he must have inherited all of his parents' wealth. I'm assuming they died in the bunker. Here's something that the first movie didn't answer that the second movie also was affected by. There don't seem to be repercussions that we see from a huge number of people in the world dying. Because even though they stopped in the first movie, whatever the pulse was that was making people go crazy and start to kill each other, a lot of people died before they stopped. No one's talked about the after effects of such a huge number of people being killed. And in the second movie, a bunch of people died from the drugs before they got the antidote.
Yes, I think that was a little too heavy of a topic for this movie to address.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, this movie was made to be a fun movie.
I just wonder if we're going to get to, like, Kingsman 5, and it's just a neighborhood full of, like, empty houses because we've had so many worldwide disasters. And here's the thing, too. Like, even though Poppy didn't get her way, it basically worked the opposite of how she wanted to, because now everyone's afraid of taking drugs. So she screwed herself.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
If she had lived, would have been out of a job. Yeah, I'm not sure she thought that one through.
And the only reason she did it was because she wanted people to know who she was.
That's true. It
wasn't even really like, she wasn't worried about people taking drugs or, you know, the strain on law enforcement and all that other BS that she spouted off. She just wanted to be famous. She wanted recognition for her empire.
I'm not sure why she had to go about it this way. She could have just put branding on her drug packages.
Yeah. Well, she could have put a golden circle on them. Hello. Hasn't she ever seen Daredevil? Come on.
Yeah. That seems a lot simpler.
Definitely.
Than trying to kill a huge amount of the population.
But I think that also goes back to the whole, this is sort of a tongue-in-cheek spy movie where the villain is always big picture, and it seems like small things can undermine their plans because they're so overdone.
Yeah, if one tiny thing goes wrong.
Yeah, I think it was probably true to what
their
aim was in making this kind of movie. But it was pretty silly.
Eggsy and Whiskey go to the ski chalet where there's a secret lab I was confused about. The two of those things mixed together. That seemed odd. Also, the place where Charlie and his girlfriend used to go is also the location of this lab. There was a bunch of weird mixing going on. I didn't quite understand why it was that way.
Okay, also, I'm just going to jump ahead real quick. When Eggsy and Whiskey are in the gondola, Charlie starts spinning it.
Yeah.
Why is that a function of this device?
That's what I thought too.
Like, why is it even possible to spin it?
One,
why would you ever want to do that?
For one, why can it spin? For two, why can it spin that fast?
Right. It makes no sense that that's a possibility.
Yeah. Can people not just walk to a different window? That was really weird.
Also, that scene kind of made me sick. Just the spinning,
I had to look away, yeah.
Yeah, too much spinning.
They have to leave Colin Firth in a control booth, which is good and bad. I mean, he keeps having the butterfly visions, and it's messing with him. I'm going to jump back for a second. The bar scene, when we first get Colin Firth, when we get Galahad's memory back, and he's going to fight the guys, it was so sad, but I think perfect that he did the same. Manners maketh man, lock the doors. It swung the glass backwards, but he screwed up because his coordination was off because of the eye, that he totally missed the guy. And I loved that they did that and that they didn't let him come back 100% right away.
Right, that's more realistic. I mean, it would take time to adjust.
And even just having one eye totally messes up your balance. I will tell a very short childhood story to explain this. When I was, I don't know, like 10 or something, I had this super, super straight, fine hair, and I was combing my bangs in the morning with a fine-tooth comb. And right as I got to the bottom of the downstroke, my mom called me, and I turned my head, and I cut my eyeball with my fine-tooth comb, and I got to get this awesome patch on my eye because I had cut my cornea or something. So I had to walk around for a week with this stupid patch on my eye. I'd walk along the sidewalk, and then all of a sudden I would realize I was in the grass. I kept veering off to the left, completely not on purpose. I couldn't seem to walk in a straight line with one eye not available anymore. And so I definitely understand everything being a little bit off when you lose vision in one eye. After this wild ride in the gondola, after Eggsy has gotten, I don't know why he only grabbed one antidote. I would have grabbed a handful of those more than just one. Because I kept thinking he was going to have to decide between giving one to Tequila and one to his girlfriend.
Oh.
And that was going to be a big thing. Mm-hmm. But obviously it turned out not to be because it was broken 10 minutes after they got it. Broken very purposefully by Whiskey.
Well, and I kept thinking, why did he even take it out of its container? What? Just leave it there!
As we've learned, he's not very good at securing things, like his house. Galahad the First, because at this point we have two Galahads and everyone's very confused.
Galahad Sr.
Yeah, Galahad Sr. shoots Whiskey after this little fight they have with some enemy combatants outside in this cabin that they made it to. And he thinks he's a double agent, or at least just not on their side. Eggsy does not believe him at all. What did you think at this point? Did you believe Galahad Sr. or Galahad Jr.?
I believed Galahad Sr.
Me too.
And I can't say for sure why, but it sat just fine with me that Whiskey wasn't on the up and up.
Me too. He wasn't quite right either. So they're trying to find Charlie because he's blown up the ski chalet lab. Do people actually go skiing there? I cannot get over what the hell this place is.
Maybe Poppy bought it and then
okay,
it's not open for business, I guess.
And why is there a nursing home at the bottom of the hill?
All right, that's a fair point.
What the hell was that? That was so weird.
That was weird. Also, you can't tell me nobody died of a heart attack.
I know, I was thinking that too. So, Eggsy and Whiskey go to the Glastonbury Music Festival to follow Clara, Charlie's girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, whatever. They're obviously still involved somehow. And we get the really unpleasant part of the movie. They made it funny, but it was still uncomfortable to me. They're both hitting on her so they can seduce her, so they can plant a tracker inside her vagina. I still think that it probably would have been easier to get it in her nose. I don't know why it didn't occur to me, but when Eggsy called Tilda to say he had to sleep with her, my first thought was, why does he have to sleep with her? Can't he just use his finger?
Right.
He has to use that anyhow. Why does he have to go the next step and actually have sex with her?
Yeah, I thought that too. I was like, why is he saying he has to have sex with her? He doesn't have to have sex with her.
I don't know why it didn't occur to him before that he could do that. That he could just do that and be done.
And I didn't like the scene of the insertion. I felt like it was really distasteful.
Also, she did not consent to have something placed inside of her vagina other than a finger. So, not cool, Eggsy. Not cool.
Though, devil's advocate here, millions of people were dying. I mean, does that make it okay for her as a victim? No. But bigger picture, greater good, that sort of thing.
However, they could have completely left this out of the movie and it wouldn't have changed a thing because that is not how they found him. They found him because they were listening in on her phone and they tracked him by phone. They didn't track him from her tracker.
Wait, I thought that she talked on the phone and he said go to the place and they followed her tracker to the place.
But then why couldn't they just put it in her phone? Why'd they have to put it inside of her?
I don't know.
It's problematic.
It's problematic.
There's some much less upsetting ways they could have done this. And that makes me think they did it because they thought it was funny.
Also, can you imagine being the actress and having them filming that scene? What?
Oh, God, yeah. That was really close up.
I thought they were just gonna like pan down to the top of the panty and we could all just infer. But no, they just wanted a crotch shot, I guess.
Yeah. Either way, they get to Poppy Land in the jungle in Cambodia. Eggsy steps on a landmine, and that's when Merlin manages to use this spray to freeze it for a second so Eggsy can step off. But then, instead of using a rock, I don't know why he couldn't use a rock or something.
You know, it's hard to say how you'd react if you were in a life and death situation.
Yeah, but they could have thought about it for a minute. So Merlin dies. It's very sad, but he goes out really well.
Country road,
is a good death.
Take me home to the place that I belong.
West Virginia. I'd sing along, but I can't.
No, you can't. Please don't, because it's scary just to hear you talk.
I really can't. Galahad 1, Galahad 2 get inside the compound, and Eggsy goes after Charlie, and Colin Firth is attacked by the dogs. Well, sorry, one dog at first, because the other dog's still charging. A great little piece.
Okay, I really liked this movie a lot, but the more we talk about it,
the more problems it has.
I mean, it's completely ridiculous.
It really is.
But it was still a really
lot of
entertaining movie. It was a lot of fun. You know what? You can't go into this movie expecting it to be a James Bond movie. It's not.
Well, and a lot of the ridiculousness was on purpose. So Colin Firth manages to kill one of the dogs by pouring the handy... I don't know why the molten gold is always running and keeping it melted. I don't know why they can't just do a little bit of it. And so the dog gets the Viserys treatment of a molten crown on his head and goes down, it melts him up. And the other dog apparently finishes charging and comes after Colin Firth, Galahad 1, chases him around in the bowling alley for a while, and then Elton John shows up and shoves his face in front of Colin Firth because he's a friend, and so it can't kill him. Because he moves his head out of the way so Colin Firth can hit the dog with a bowling ball, and he jumps back in. And then he moves again so he can hit him, jumps back in. And so it's just this back and forth, and that was a really fun scene. And he's in a ridiculous costume In every point in this movie, too.
Yes.
It's wonderful.
And I would like to think that those came from his own closet.
God, I hope so. And the shoes, the giant shoes. They're fantastic. So they manage to take down the guard dogs. Eggsy gets another really wholesome moment where Charlie loses his arm, and so Eggsy says he's going to fight him like a gentleman and puts one arm behind his own back and fought him to the death with just one arm.
Yeah.
Even at the very end of that fight, I thought that he would use both arms to do the final, like the kill thing. But nope, still just one arm. He was the gentleman to the very end.
Yeah.
I realized that I said he was wholesome for killing a man with one arm. That sounds a little weird.
While he was murdering someone.
We all know what I mean. He kept his word. He was very honorable about it.
And also, if he hadn't killed him, Charlie would just keep trying to kill him. It was self-defense.
It's true.
I don't think Eggsy would ever kill someone that wasn't a threat. He's a very sweet character.
He is. I love Eggsy so much.
I do too. He's wonderful.
He has so many redeeming qualities.
He really, really does.
Also, he has a lot of talents, even before he was a Kingsman. He was an award-winning gymnast. He was a Marine, I think, for a while. He was in the military. He's very smart. But he also somehow learned how to drift in a car. And
wasn't that
fight.
Cool?
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Oh, man, that was cool.
And become a criminal and pickpocket people. He was multi-talented. Also, one interesting thing that always surprised me in the first movie, even on the second watch recently, I had forgotten about this. He doesn't start fights for the most part. Even when the guys were up in his face and wanted to fight him, he just left and he got his friends to leave too.
Well, and he's smart. He literally picks his battles.
Yeah. Eggsy and Harry get the case where Poppy can put in the passcode to send out the drones. And when they're trying to get her to give them the password, Eggsy injects some of the initial poison stuff into her neck. So she will go through the same mania and, well, it skips the mania part, it seems, too.
No, she was a little manic-y, but it supposedly was sped up, so she went through them really fast.
Yeah. I just expected dancing, and there was no dancing.
Julianne Moore, why wouldn't you just dance for us?
I know. I wanted her weird dance, because you know it would have been weird.
I'm picturing Elaine from Seinfeld.
That's exactly what I was trying to think of. Yeah, definitely. They managed to get the access code from her. I was actually surprised that she gave him the right one.
I actually was confused that whole scene and wasn't even sure that that's what was happening. But after she died and they put it in, I was like, oh, that's what she was talking about. Maybe I'm just dumb.
I am happy that it turns out whiskey, I mean, I don't like whiskey, but at least it turned out that he was just going to let it happen because of his past, and he wasn't actively on the other side, working for Poppy. He wasn't like secretly Golden Circle or anything.
He was just taking advantage of the situation.
Yes.
Kind of just like the president, actually.
Yeah. So everything ends hunky-dory, just a few million people dead, that's all. I'm sure it's fine.
Not so much of a strain on our resources, so...
I feel like in this world, the Kingsman universe, the person to be is someone who owns a funeral home. Just a growing business with all these supervillains. Champagne has purchased a distillery in Scotland, so Kingsman can be rebuilt. So I guess they're gonna be liquor purveyors instead of tailors now. Fake tailors, fake liquor purveyors. Eggsy or Harry are offered whiskey's position so they can stop the whole confusing Galahad and Galahad deal, but they do not accept. They suggest ginger ale, or she puts herself forward for it. It's quickly voted, and she's accepted. But the movie ends when we still have the problem of the two Galahads.
That's true. That
is not solved, unless Eggsy marrying is him resigning from Kingsman.
Yeah, I wondered about that, because... You know, like we said before, he can't do both.
Yeah.
But it seems unlikely that he'd be willing to retire so
Yes.
quickly. But, on the other hand, so now I'm like on my third hand, he, I guess, had to make a
Yeah.
decision. Which did he love more, her or the job?
I am really, really glad that they put in the line that there was no doubt in his mind that that's what he wanted was to marry her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it didn't feel like a pressure situation.
Yeah, and also, I think what had a big effect on his decision was when Harry was talking to him on the plane and said, "When I was dying, I wasn't thinking of anything. I had no one to think of." And I think that the way Eggsy felt about Harry, how much he cared about him, made him realize that he's a person that wants
Yeah.
people around. He wants to have people to miss. And so he's in love with her, he's going to marry her. So,
And it kind of reframed the previous conversation he'd had with Princess Tilda when she suggested that they get married in the first place, where it wasn't him being upset about it, just that it was sprung on him and he hadn't necessarily considered it or thought it through before.
he didn't even say no. He
No.
said it's a discussion we need to have.
Yeah.
Which I think was really unfair of her. And I think that that's a stereotype that people need to stop using.
I agree.
Oh, she's a woman, so she wants to get married, and it's fish or cut bait kind of attitude. They gave him more depth than that. Yes, I love you, but this isn't something we can decide when I'm in the middle of a mission.
So that was the movie. And I thought it was pretty fun to watch.
Flaws aside, when I sat there and I watched it, I enjoyed it. I'm looking back on it fondly,
Mm-hmm.
even with its mistakes. It's just a nice, fun movie.
Yeah, it was really fun. Plot holes and all.
Sure, lots of good movies have plot holes. I'm willing to overlook them.
Yeah.
I'm there to be entertained. I'm not going to class. I'm not going to a lecture. I'm not going to see a documentary. I'm going to see an action movie. That's what I got.
Yeah, and I just love some of the characters so much. It is time for top 3. Rosanna, what is your top 3 for this movie?
My top 3 for this movie are things that I loved about both movies. The things that were so great about the first movie that they brought into the second movie.
Oh, cool.
Number 1, it's a spy movie, but it's overdone in a really fun way with characters and the cars and the weapons and the action. You can tell that they're not making fun, but they're having fun. And that's great.
Also, that orange jacket they put Eggsy in, like so over the top, but so awesome.
And number 2 is the amazing stylized fight scenes with the slow-mo, with the music, very specific to these movies, the way they set up these scenes.
Yeah.
Which I really, really loved a lot. The fight scenes, the car chase, explosions, all that kind of stuff. And then number 3, the entire bar fight from both movies. So when Colin Firth did it in the first one, bless you, man. I love that scene. So amazing. And even though Whiskey was not my favorite character, I loved his fight scene in the bar. I thought it was so cool with the lasso and how, it was 1 against, 6 or 7 guys. And in both of the scenes, the man walks over and locks the door and is just so casual, not at all concerned about the fact that they're completely outnumbered, and then just annihilates them. I mean, I thought they're great scenes. They're so much fun to watch.
There was one thing about this bar scene that confused me a little bit. I don't remember what it was, but Whiskey called that guy by a name that wasn't alcohol. So at first I thought that was another Statesman agent.
Oh, actually, you know what? I kind of remember thinking that too. That the one that stood up and was being so rude. Yes. What did he call him?
Yeah.
Maybe he was calling him something as an insult. Did he call him the name of a cheap beer? I just don't remember what it was.
And based on that scene too with the lasso and everything, this reminded me of when Eggsy was sitting at the table with all of them and he said they should attack because they've got brain skills and skipping rope. I love that line. Well, he had a lasso and a whip.
Yes. He did a good job with that lasso. Though, I did find it a little bit of a stretch that he caught the knife in the air with a lasso.
That's what made you
Yes.
wonder?
That was my only hang-up. That was my only issue with that scene.
Oh god, and when it turned to electrified.
It pretty much turned into a lightsaber, but wiggly.
Wiggly lightsaber.
Right? I mean,
weapon.
he cut the guy in half with it. It was a lightsaber, right?
Basically, yes.
Also, how do you learn to use that without losing a finger at the very least?
Yeah, that's not...
Yeah, quit tearing the scene apart. It was one of my favorite parts.
It was really fun.
Just leave it.
So do you have any predictions about a possible sequel?
Unfortunately, I think that based on the reception of this movie, they probably won't make another one.
Oh, did it not do well?
A lot of the people that I've heard talking about it did not think it was good. Just some things online. I disagree with them, and maybe there are people that really liked it too, and they're just not as vocal. So, but I would totally love it if there was another one.
Yeah.
There is the issue with him. I don't know if, would he actually be a prince, or would he just be married to a princess? Either way, he's going to be a public figure, and that's the problem. So, not sure where they could go with that. Also, it was kind of weird that Channing Tatum decided to move to London.
Oh, that's right, yeah. With the little bowler hat.
So, I assume if there was a third movie, he would be a large character in it as a statesman living in London.
Yeah, I wouldn't want them to make Eggsy not the main character. So I just looked it up, and it's done really well. Even if the reviews haven't been great, it's already past 100 million.
Really? Good. Well, maybe they will make another one then.
And I will say, that 100 million, 39 million was in the US. The rest was global. So it did really well in other countries, too.
That's our episode. You can keep up with us on Twitter at SomeCheek, Facebook.com/SomeCheek, and Instagram at SomethingCheekyPodcast. You can also visit our website to learn about our other shows and send us questions and feedback, and suggest other movies for us to cover at SomethingCheekyPodcast.com.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider making a donation to help us cover production costs and to buy me some throat lozenges. You can just click the donate button on our website at SomethingCheekyPodcast.com. If you can't donate, you can leave a review on iTunes. That also is a really big help. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next time. La 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 la